Next up, we're going to talk June visitors. So I'm going to run through the list, and then we're going to break down like 5 or 6 of our favorite ones. Because, guys, this is a very, very long list. That could get longer because there's still some guys on here that haven't decided. Caden Finley will be visiting in June. Chris Stewart, who is committed to the University of Texas, wide receiver, will be visiting in June. Felix Ojo, visiting in June. Toa Katoa, visiting in June. Zayden Krempin, visiting. John Turntine III, visiting. Nicholas Robertson, visiting. Max Wright, who's committed to Texas, visiting. Tiasin Elowoko, I probably butchered that last name, from Georgetown, linebacker from Texas, visiting. Tank King, one of my favorite players in here. I don't have him on my list, but I do love him. I also love the name. Visiting. Kosi Akapola, visiting. Chase Calicut, visiting. Jalen Lott, visiting. Jermaine Bishop, visiting. And then this one, to be set up. I don't think it's going to happen. Javian Osborne already said he's not going to visit Texas. Now, he did say give a specific date. So I will say this. He could always come to Texas and be like, well, I just said that date. But for right now, with Tashard Choice leaving, I do think Michigan is the runaway favorite as of right now. I'd be shocked if Texas made up enough ground there. But again, long period of time, we'll have to see. KJ Edwards might be visiting as well. Caden Dixon Wyatt visiting. Mark Bowman visiting, who also reclassified to this class, and I really like him as well. Luke Sorensen visiting. Cody Green, who we talk about. Check out that video. Visiting. Sam Utu visiting. Naheem Burrows visiting. Samuel Rosenborough visiting. Let's see. Out of Georgia, Aaron Gregory. Out of California, visiting. Hayes Kent, visiting. Caden Protho. Again, Texas late on him, but they're getting into it. I think this is a big one. I'll talk about him more. Bryce Perry Wright, visiting. Jabari Mack, visiting. Dylan Perrymore, visiting. Kendall Gerville, visiting. Justice Fitzpatrick, visiting. Aaron Gregory, visiting. So this is a very long list of guys visiting. We're not going to talk about all of them because we would be here for a very, very long time, guys. And there's like literally 20 more guys that could visit. Like there could be 70 to 100 guys coming to Texas in June. We're going to talk about 5 to 6 of them that stick out to us and that we love to get. Jared, I'll let you start out.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that you didn't mention is Xavier Crowell is a guy who canceled. He was another one that canceled his visit when Tashard Choice left. They managed to get him. Chad Scott managed to get that visit back on the books. So getting him in, I think it's like early June, like June 6th or something like that. Whatever that first Saturday or whatever the first weekend in June is. But getting him back on the list, I think was a huge win. Texas needs a running back in this class. I think Texas is one running back a year kind of school. And so with Osborne kind of falling to the wayside with Choice leaving, I think getting Crowell back on the list is one that jumped out to me. You mentioned Turntine, Roberson, Finley, Bishop. They're all coming in on the same weekend, actually, I think. Okay, so like that June 20th is going to be the one to watch. I think you're going to see a lot of commits come out of that weekend. Maybe not directly out of that weekend, but you're going to see a lot of like, oh, there's a couple of silent commits, and then guys that go public later in the process are going to show up and say, yeah, I committed on the 20th, and they just we wanted to hold it or whatever it might be. So yeah, like you mentioned, all those offensive linemen coming in, get them all, like all the beef that we can in the class. That's how I love to live my life. Caden Finley makes me feel super old. I see the grays in my beard showing up really well when I talk about him because I was on campus when his dad was there. So but he's another guy. I think when you talk about getting great receivers from in-state, he's one of those ones that I think could be a difference maker for Texas. So I did talk a lot, but I think the one again that jumps out is Xavier Crowell, getting him back on the schedule. And then that June 20th, like that list is going to be one to watch.
No, 100%. So I have 5 guys written down here. One of them, and I kind of like this because they're all from different neck of the woods. Like I like that Texas is finally hitting certain states harder than they used to. We see that with Florida. We see that with Georgia. I think you're seeing that with Louisiana as well. And this guy is from there. Dylan Berrymon from Louisiana, 6'1.5", 305, 4-star recruit. I think he's more of an inside guy. Yeah. Maybe lose weight and slide outside, but I doubt that. I think he's more inside. And I think, again, this fits into the mold of not a finished product. Texas wants guys that they can, one, put meat on the bones of, which you can definitely do with this guy because I think he's going to grow more. And then just plays with an intensity. And he definitely does that. He can get after their passer a little bit. And again, you get your hooks in Louisiana. Louisiana is a really, really good football state, and it's really hard to get guys out of there because they basically brainwash them. They really do. Like, guys, if you realize all the high schools are named Tigers, and they're all purple and gold for a reason. It's because they want to funnel him to LSU. So anytime you can get this guy on for a visit and you can try to get him committed to the University of Texas, it's a big deal, not just because of getting him, but getting your hooks into Louisiana. So that's why I have him on the list. A guy that I really, really like, Caden Prothro. We have a video on him with Leanne from the Ole Miss channel. She does recruiting news for us as well. She said Texas is going to come hard here. They came late, but they're going to come hard. He is 6'6", 210 pounds. This screams a guy to me. You can put 20 pounds on him, and if you can teach him to block and be an average blocker, this is a first-round pick in the NFL. That's what he could be. With those measurables, what I've seen on tape, he's fast, he's strong, he's physical, he's got what you want from a guy that size is be able to play the ball in the air very well. Guess what? He does that really well, guys. Yep. So this is a guy that I would love, absolutely love for Texas to get. Again, we came late here. We'll see if we can come on hard and strong and get him. But it'd be really nice to get him. And again, from Georgia, that's a big deal when you get your hooks into Georgia, which I believe per capita produces the most NFL players now. So really good state to get a hold of. Naheem Burrows, I think, is a very underrated wide receiver. And also, I love where he's from, Florida. Florida produces just different wide receivers, guys. Go look at the NFL. Go look at the guys. That Bama team that Steve Sarkisian called plays for, Jerry Jeudy from Florida. I believe Henry Ruggs is from Florida. I'm not sure about Devontae Smith, but a lot of those guys on that roster were from Florida. They just present a different attitude, a different grittiness, and he fits the profile of what Sark wants. Track speed. We know what Sark loves about that. Track speed. He also has big hands, big catch radius, and he's only 5'11". But again, big hands, big catch radius, along with track speed. We know Sark loves that type of stuff. So really important when we get him. And then another guy who's a little bit bigger, but again, kind of a track speedster, Caden Dixon-Wyatt from California. We're more of a coast-to-coast team now, guys. Like I said, reaching out there with Sark's old ties. Johnny Nansen also helps with that. So I think it'd be awesome to land him. And that's the thing, too. If you're not going to get an Ethan Booby Feaster, then guess what? If you can land one or two of these guys that are a little bit more developmental but fit your mold, I'll sign up for that. I'm fine with that. And then Bryce Perry Wyatt, he's also from Georgia. 4-star, top 50 player. And this guy isn't your prototypical defensive lineman. He's 6'2", 250, so a little bit light for an interior defensive lineman, but again, could put on a little bit more weight. He's not a tactician right now, but we've talked about that. Kenny Baker, that is his job. That's what he said he's good at. He's good at teaching guys what they need to do, but this guy plays with a very high motor and really good energy, and he's also got very thick legs, which is very important to play defensive line. So I like those are my 5 guys that I'm looking at. Got a little bit of from each position, a little bit from each part of the country, and I think that's very important for Texas moving forward to hit all of those needs.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has done a really good job of establishing inroads in traditionally SEC-dominated areas. And I think it's why Texas moving to the SEC is huge, right? Being able to go into Florida and say, yep, we've got a game against Florida. We've got a game against Florida every couple of years going into LSU, being able to say that, going into Georgia, being able to say that, right? Being able to make inroads into these traditional SEC places that, frankly, they were relatively shut out of for most of their time, right? Most of Texas's national recruiting really was California and a little bit of Louisiana, maybe, but a lot of it was out west, right? Aaron Bijan Robinson was an Arizona kid, right? So a lot of it was out west California, again, Pacific time zone, those types of places. So being able to go into traditional SEC places and grab kids and be able to say, nope, you're coming to Texas. Nope, you're coming to Texas is going to be huge. And again, I mentioned this already, like John Turntine being on the schedule already, having Felix Ojo on the schedule already is huge, right? Those guys are guys that you need to land, especially with whatever quarterback situation it's going to be, right? They're not going to block for Arch. They're going to be blocking for probably Diabell, but like get those guys into the class, get them on campus. I think one is on the 13th, one is on the 20th, right? So again, those are 2 elite guys that I think are must-haves in state. When you have elite offensive linemen in the state, you have to land them. And so those are the ones that jump to mind for me.
Yeah, and I think something important as well, because we talked about Diabell possibly leaving. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
And also, but he hasn't scheduled a summer visit, so I think that's important. And then also scheduling him at the right time. Get him in there with guys like offensive linemen, like you said, to create a relationship with those guys so they can, when they come to Texas, they already have that built-in chemistry and stuff like that. So wide receivers, offensive linemen would not shock me at all if that's what Texas is doing. They get all of them on like the same weekend and then say, hey, Dia, come this weekend so you can be around these wide receivers and offensive linemen. You see that a lot of the time. So I think that'd be very important. And then one thing, we got to start recruiting the DMV. That's the only part of the country we do not recruit that well, and they produce some very high-level football players. They've been doing that, especially the past decade. That's like the one part of the country we have yet to hit on, really.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, they do great. Like a lot of those guys end up at Big Ten schools, so like it kind of is just a regionality thing. I don't know, maybe higher. They've got coaches that have, some East Coast experience now. You talked about, Orphy was a guy who I think had spent some time at Rutgers. So like maybe getting the DMV that way. I'm not sure.
Yeah, 100%. But they produce. And hey, by the way, basketball team, you can do the same thing because you suck right now. So maybe get up there because guess what? The last guy that came here, I believe, from that area was Kevin Durant. So maybe we should just look up there for every sport. So yeah, we did pretty good on that one. But again, guys, that does it for the June visitors. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below.